All right, today we are diving deep into a modern-day internet firestorm. It's a really fascinating case study, actually, on how public narratives get shaped and, more importantly, managed in this age of viral clips and, well, internet outrage.
So let's get right into the central question here, because it really gets to the heart of this whole thing. It all kicked off with a public couple whose private, let's say, provocative sense of humor suddenly got thrown into the very harsh court of public opinion.
And at the center of all this, you've got comedian Akaash Singh and his wife Jasleen. Now, they host podcasts, they share a ton of their life online, and they've really built a brand around their relationship and their very specific, very unfiltered style of humor.
The whole thing just exploded when these old podcast clips started making the rounds, totally ripped from their original context. The internet's reaction, as you can imagine, was immediate and it was harsh. It created this perfect storm of controversy that got even bigger because of an ongoing feud Akaash was already having with another online figure.
Okay, so what was actually said that made them need this massive damage control tour? Let's take a look at the key moments that got clipped up and shot straight into the social media stratosphere.
All right, first up, there was this comment from Jasleen about having a roster back in college. Now, for a lot of people online, that word immediately brings to mind, a rotation of romantic partners. It raised a lot of eyebrows and kicked off this huge wave of criticism right away.
And then there was the orgy joke. This one involved another comedian. Later on, Jasleen would explain on the Flagrant podcast that this was just supposed to be absurd humor. The idea was that it was so out of character for her, that was what made it funny. But for a wider audience who didn't know their dynamic, it did not land.
And look, it wasn't just Jasleen's comments. Even things Akaash said were put under a microscope. This line right here, which he said was just a joke, was seen by thousands and thousands of viewers as a really disrespectful shot at his wife's contributions.
And this is a perfect example of how a visual can just pour gasoline on the fire. These compilation videos went completely viral, showing Jasleen turning away whenever Akaash tried to kiss her. For a lot of people, this became the visual proof that something was seriously wrong in the relationship.
So, they're facing this full-blown PR crisis, right? They make a really strategic move. They go on the popular Flagrant podcast to tell their side of things. So let's break down the exact communication tactics they use to try and get control of this narrative again.
Their first move was a total classic from the PR playbook: minimization and reframing. Now, this isn't about flat-out denying what you said. It's about strategically playing down how important it was and, well, changing what it originally meant.
And here you can see that tactic in action, plain as day. Suddenly, having a roster was softened to just, talking to two guys. Hooking up was clarified to mean just kissing, and a bruise, she joked, was from a good weekend. That was walked back to an injury from a Pilates class.
Okay, next, they moved on to something a little more complex, creating what's known as cognitive dissonance. The whole point of this strategy is to present two conflicting versions of a person at the same time. It makes the story confusing and stops the audience from landing on one single negative idea about you.
So, on one hand, the interview really leaned into this narrative of the repressed Indian girl, a prude, a virgin until she met Akaash. But then, on the other hand, this is the same person who's openly making jokes about orgies and talking about specific sex toys. That inconsistency makes it really, really hard for anyone to form a clear judgment. It's confusing by design. But here's the thing. Even with this very carefully crafted defense on a super friendly podcast, a huge chunk of the audience was still deeply skeptical. The real question is, why didn't it work? This old saying pretty much perfectly sums up how the internet backlash felt. A lot of viewers felt that the explanations they were getting weren't just unbelievable, but that their intelligence was actually being insulted.
So, here's the crucial point. The pushback wasn't just about the original clips anymore. It was about the damage control itself. People were pointing out all the contradictions. It felt like they were watching a PR performance, not a real talk. And the constant use of humor just felt like a way to dodge the real issues instead of addressing them.
But, in today's attention economy, all this controversy, all this outrage, it doesn't just go away. It gets converted into something else. It becomes currency. Because attention, whether it's good or bad, is incredibly valuable.
And here is the proof, right here. During the damage control episode itself, they directly used the controversy to sell tickets for Akaash's comedy show at Radio City Music Hall. The whole mess was turned into a marketing hook right in front of everyone.
So,
What was the actual, tangible result of all this attention? What happened after weeks of viral clips, reaction videos, and all this heated online debate?
Well, the podcast's YouTube channel hit a massive milestone, 2 million subscribers. They even made a point to announce it at the very end of that same damage control episode. So the controversy, as intense as it was, directly fueled their growth.
This entire episode just gives us a crystal clear look at the modern PR playbook. Step 1, you humanize the subject. Talk about family. Talk about hardship. Step 2, control the narrative with humor. Step 3, reframe all the facts as just simple misunderstandings. And then the final step, step 4, promote. Turn all that attention into cash. And it leaves us with this final, pretty provocative thought. In a world where controversy equals currency, where online outrage can lead to sold-out shows and millions of new subscribers, what is the real line between a crisis and a campaign anymore? Definitely something to think about.